Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. How about that lunch? Was that lunch okay? All right. We're looking forward to the next session. One of my favorite subjects is leadership, and it's tough to find someone that's really good to teach that, and I think we've got one of the best here today. We're going to dive in a little bit into the leadership topic. Kurby Court is an accomplished executive board member, keynote speaker, and leadership facilitator with more than 30 years of experience in Canada's live events, hospitality, convention sectors. As president and CEO of the Calgary TELUS Convention Centre, he leads with a strategic focus on operational excellence, inclusive leadership, in customer-centric transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kurby into the podium, please. Thank you. Have fun.
So, have you ever had someone walk into your office and say, "My mother died last night"? Have you ever had somebody walk into your office and say, "I need to leave my spouse today and my children are being abused"? Have you ever had to pick up the phone and call someone to notify of someone's death? I'll ask you at those times, what does your title mean? What does your position mean? What does that Michelin star mean at that time? I would argue, nothing. We all work, you've all achieved at different levels. And man, I'm in a space that I'm not in every day. As you see, I'm not wearing a white jacket. I know the impact you can have on an event. I know the impact you can have on human beings, but when we're working with teams, it is a completely different environment than our titles or the association that I lead or the board that I sit on. Coming into today, I was trying to personalize my presentation. I need some pictures of chefs. Do you realize that this is your standard pose? No smiles. I'll give you another angle. The hardest thing to do. Then you can tell there's the chef that really enjoys what they're doing. There was the occasional smile. That's the reason the power pose is there. I hate this picture. And I was a little heavier at the time. President and CEO, Vice Chair of Meetings of Mean Business Canada, which is a great governmental association that I advocate for the live events industry, and Global Education Chair for the International Association of Convention Centers. And my organization, my team, is not allowed to introduce me as the CEO to anybody. They introduce me as their colleague. That was a really hard thing to do, but I can tell you, folks, the minute I did that, shoulders come down. Everybody takes a breath. And it's like a fun game they have. Can I introduce you to my colleague? Can you imagine one of your junior chefs, your student chefs in a restaurant, in the facilities where you work, introducing you to the Prime Minister or President of your country as, "This is my colleague"? How'd that make you feel? Titles don't matter when you're working with humans. And we get hung up on it. I can tell you, I teach academies every year. I teach them in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Brussels, Canada. Every time I talk to an up-and-coming leader and they present a challenge, they say, "I could never say that to my leader." You want to talk about hearts being crushed? There is a brain, there is some motivation, there's inspiration. The days of, and hey, I get it, you work in a paramilitary organization. What you say goes, otherwise people get food poisoning, otherwise there's not consistency on plates, temperatures are an issue, delivery's an issue. But at the same time, you are working with a human. So there's a time for that, and then there's a time to have a few more different tools in your toolbox, and that's what I'm here for today, is to hopefully open you up to some different mindsets. Are we all perfect? Absolutely not. We're human, and I'm happy to report that AI is not going to replace a convention center. And I'm happy to report that AI is not going to replace catering, because AI has no taste buds. So with that, I'm going to make you freak out a little bit. I'm going to invite you all to stand up because you all had lunch and you're all jet lagged. So you're all going to stand up. I'm going to invite you to follow these instructions. You have 15 seconds to turn to the person beside you, behind you, your choice. You say your first name, and you're going to, now this is where you guys all freak out, you're going to lose your taste buds in 30 minutes. They're gone forever. Yeah, I saw some shoulders just go up just now. That was kind of interesting to watch. Some people got stressed. You're done. You're fired. You lost your taste buds. But everybody's shoulders just went up a little bit. I watched. You could actually see the shoulders rise. What do you mean I'm losing my taste buds? You're going to lose your taste buds. What is the last thing you want to taste? You have 15 seconds. Turn to the person beside you, your first name, and what is the last thing you want to taste? Go. Actually, I'll get my hands with my hands up. Yeah. Okay. So before you sit down, okay, it was 15 seconds, so no one should be talking. That was the instructions. You all work in the kitchen, you know the rules, right? Okay, chef's talking. All right. You were given two very simple instructions, and I bet you half the room didn't follow it because we're humans. You were told to give the first name and your last thing you want to taste. Who went on to say, I had a great lunch, great to see you again? Who didn't even notice the person behind them that didn't have a partner? Huh? So show of hands, how many said more than those two things? Yeah, welcome. And there's those of you that did that are not putting your hand up, and I saw you, so go ahead and sit down. Yes. So what you just experienced was a check-in. I bet 99% of the time you start a meeting with, right then, so today we're going to do whatever it is you're doing. You're doing a stand-up before your meal service, stand-up before a major event. You're sitting down in the boardroom. It's like, right then, I call this meeting to order. There is no way to shift the mindset of the horrible drive in to work that day. The fact my kid is very sick. The fact that my wife and I just had the worst argument of our entire marriage. You don't have a pulse of where their mindset's at, and you haven't reset their brain. The power of a check-in is the most important thing. My team has identified 3 times where there could have been a suicide by doing this crazy little exercise. And during COVID, it was really important online to do that, to do a check-in. How are people doing? And we created a deck of cards called A Penny for Your Thought. Out of all those questions we recorded, everybody had to dream up a different question each week. I never chair all the meetings is the other trick that we do. Just because I'm the CEO doesn't mean I chair. And I share that. We rotate. There's 17 chairs. And then it comes back to me. I don't always have to be the one talking, but whoever chairs it has to dream up the question. And I have answered a million things. One was, what is my death march? What's the song that's going to be played at my funeral? What's my death row meal? I mean, my people go pretty dark on some things. But are you MC or DC or are you Marvel? If you could be a superhero, what is it? If you could have a conversation with anybody in the world for 30 minutes, who would it be, dead or alive? You name the question, it's there, but they have to start the question with, how are we doing today? And here's the question of the day. And they have to respond. They are allowed to say pass, but you feel really uncomfortable in passes now in my organization. You're not allowed to have a team meeting in my organization without a check-in. Because 1, you need to get a mindset reset, but 2, you as the leader should probably know the pulse check in the room. And the more you do that, the more your people are become more vulnerable with you to say, I did have a really crappy morning this morning. Or, yeah, I spent all night, my basement flooded. They're exhausted. So when they're not showing up in the meeting, it's just like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you showing up? Yeah, they didn't. They had 2 hours of sleep last night. So you might not want to put that person on the front of house today or the highest stress position. Or are they fit for duty? You know what? Take your time out. You get to go home today. Or I'm going to ask you to stuff envelopes, whatever it is. Think of the simplest tasks you could give someone. So we want to remind everybody, you all lead associations. Under Canadian law, when you're a director or a chair of a board, an association, of a corporation, you have 3 jobs: fiduciary responsibility, duty of care, and your director's role. Very distinct difference between the two, and I would suggest that you be responsible when you go home, and you should look up what is the law that you operate under. Should your association turn on you and want to sue the association for something, where do you sit in all of that? In Canada, this is the law. And secondly, once a board makes a decision in Canada, a judge will never, very rarely, in fact, in case law to date has not happened, where a judge will overrule the decision of a board. Kind of puts that fiduciary responsibility and duty care in a little different lens, that you have that responsibility. Fiduciary duty is to the organization or association in which you operate. It's not what's best for me, what's best for my team, what's best for my buddy. None of that. It is every decision is what's best for the association or the company in which you represent. The duty of care is exactly that. You have a duty of care to make reasonable decisions and be informed that a normal person in this state of time would have made the same decision with the information I had today. That's your duty of care. It's not your duty of care to be absolutely perfectly right. It is to make the proper decision informed with the data, and the key decision there is informed. And you'll see in green all relevant considerations. Did you look at data? Did you look at the time scenario experience of the individual, depending on what the case is? So as we're going through this today, this is going to show up again, but this is the overarching aspect of what we're going to talk about. From an association perspective, you have these responsibilities, but behind all of this, there's all these humans, and there's human aspects in what you do. So, to be an unconventional leader, you need to be a learning leader. And that's my offer to you, and I will tell you, of all the CEOs in Canada, I'm the weird one. They tell me that all the time. Because I believe in psychological safety in the workplace. I believe that promoting from within is probably the most powerful thing you could ever do. But also, when it's time to say goodbye, it's time to say goodbye, and don't take your time doing it. What is the best tool in the toolbox that you have in your organization, and where's the dullest knife, and get rid of it? And they are hard to do, particularly if you're in unionized environments. If you have a board member that's dragging their feet, why are they here? To build their resume? They are absolutely useless to you, and you should make a decision, because you have a fiduciary responsibility. What's best for the organization? If you got somebody in there that's resume building or ego building, wrong board. And those are hard decisions. And you got to be honest with each other and be able to have that conversation. To be a learning leader is a relentless focus on results. So you live that every day. Your customer service surveys, your what is happening within your association, your financials, all that sort of stuff. You can measure, and what gets measured gets done. You need to create patterns and behaviors that will focus on relentless focus on results, but also lift all boats. And it's different for everybody. We're going to get into a few of those in a minute. And a got your back way of work. That is probably the most ridiculous thing that you will probably ever say to yourself is, what is this GBWYOWOW, what is this acronym? And I'm going to show you here in a second what the extreme is, but I would argue that this Venn diagram, in the center of that, there is a learning leader. I encourage you all. I'm 55 and I still learn every single day. I completed my master's at 40. I was the oldest guy in the classroom. And let me tell you, that was a humbling experience, but I'm glad I did it then instead of not doing it at all. In fact, if you take 20 minutes every day for yourself only to do something that is not culinary related, have it be 20 minutes of people development, that's 121 hours a year. And that's only 20 minutes. You go more than that, the world's your oyster. And if you challenge your team to do the same thing and you hold each other accountable that way, you're giving your team 121 hours of professional development for free for 20 minutes a day. So, these guys, I am not here to promote the U.S. military in any way, shape, or form. What I am here to do is talk about teaming. This is a team that operates at a completely different level. This is a flight demonstration team. You're wondering, Kurby, what the hell does aviation got to do with culinary? This team flies within 12 inches of each other on that handshake. That is the got your back way of work. See, these pilots with the Blue Angels do not pre-flight their plane. Most pilots, first thing you do is you walk around your plane, there are nuts and bolts there, still got 3 tires, and you're touching all the leading edges, making sure that everything is still sound. Maybe check the fuels, their fuel in the gas tank, everything is good to go. Fighter jets, these F-18s, are designed to crash. They defy all principles of flight. The only thing that keeps them going is their engines. If the engine was to lose, they go down automatically, and they go down fast. But what's unique about this is when they walk out, that handshake is there. After they've done a briefing, which I'm going to show you in a second, that's unique as well. But that handshake, that's the crew chief. This is Brandon Hepner at the time when I took that photo, or was there. And when he shakes his hand, that's the crew chief, says, "Sir, your aircraft's ready to go." On a jet that if you're going to make a mistake, you better have done it a minute and 30 seconds ago because it's too late to recover from. And oh, by the way, if you screw up, you're taking 4 other planes out with you. Don't worry about the cost of the aircraft. You got 4 lives as well. When these guys are flying, the bottom guy is Blue Angels 1. He's looking straight ahead. He's driving the team. And if you look closely, 2's looking at 1, 3 is looking at 2, 4 is looking at 3. They fly paint, the marking on the plane, and that's all they focus on. It moves, they move. So if the boss, Blue Angels 1, screws up, everybody screws up. If 2 screws up, 3 and 4 screw up. All on a handshake. Your plane is perfectly good to go. This is the briefing. So what they've done just before this, they've taken a pen and visually flown the box. So at an air show, they call it the box. The air demonstration area, it is the zone in which they are allowed to play in. So they fly the box. And at times there's 2 pilots, and at times there's 4 pilots, at times there's 6. And in a formation, but they actually look at the airspace in which they're going to be in, and they fly it with a pen, talking out loud, and we're doing this, and we're doing this, and we're doing this. Great. And canopies closed, and they close their eyes. And now they fly exactly what they're going to fly. So I want to give you a glimpse as to what this looks like. Pay attention to the tiniest of things, and I'll point some things out to you.
Cross.
Rocket jumps. Tootsie. Take it in.
Up we go. Vertical 5-5. Smoke up, pull. Up we go. Vertical 4-5. Horizon 7-5 easing power idle. Ready, roll hat. On. Mile and a half. Mark. Ground speed. 1 mile. Mark. Ground speed. Smoke up, push. Airspeed call.
Okay, so did you notice the feet? Did you notice the head going up? The flight surgeon is sitting in the background watching every single move, and her job when she's on the ground is to watch the show and the performance of the jets. One person's out of line, she has questions. Why? Why are you acting that way? The reason they do that is they do a muscle memory. They fly as one. So at the conclusion of that, I would let that play out. They actually slap their hands on the table and say, let's go. And they leave the room and they talk to no one. They form up, they leave, maybe high-five a couple people as they're leaving, but they're not talking to anybody. They've played the movie in their head of what's about to happen. They go out and they form up on the flight line. They're introduced, and from the point where they go like this as a team, you're going to see this in a video, they are one. They move everything as one. Canopies go down at the same time. Engines turn on at the same time. Smoke on at the same time. So this is, again, not advertising for Blue Angels. I just thought this was a great capture. They've actually done this show for Netflix and on Prime, actually, Amazon Prime. It's right behind me. You should probably pay attention. But they did this show, and if you watch that show from a leadership perspective and training and development, it's ridiculous, this whole program. But this is their trailer for this show. But I'm going to use this so you can actually see what I'm talking about and seeing it in action.
First time you take off, you gotta push the I believe button.
I fell in love with aviation at 4 years old. My dad took me to an air show, and I got to watch the Blue Angels fly for the very first time.
This year, we're bringing 5 new people into this team. Something I never thought was actually gonna happen.
It's 1 in a million.
We only have 3 months to get to a point where we can take it on the road.
It can be frustrating at times. The challenge is to get the newbies up to speed, and that can be scary. When you're flying 12 inches apart, everybody's lives are in each other's hands.
It's an eye-opener for how inherently dangerous this job is.
Ready, roll, hat.
Every once in a while, the jets just kind of freeze, and the world around you seems to spin.
To make 6 jets fly as one, that's the Blue Angel magic. I just pinched myself. We get a chance to be part of it.
So, in the briefing, you heard his voice. That plays a really important role moving forward. We're going to touch on that. Remember your tone of voice. And just a little pull. And then he says something really fast, brings the tone to move quickly. But just a little pull. You're pulling on the cadence. So, equifinality. We're going to come back to analogies of the Blue Angels and a couple of other things that I've learned along the way. But equifinality. I was doing my master's. My prof walked into the room and wrote this on the board and sat down and said nothing for an hour and a half. We're sitting there going, I paid for this? But it was a leadership program. And they all had our Myers-Briggs, they all had our psychological profiles, and we were set up to kill each other. All our personalities were in conflict. They designed it that way. And we just sat there. And I'm like, we start on time. In case you noticed, we started late today, and I had a little twitch. I like to start on time. So we were self-destructing in this room, and we're not allowed phones in the room either, which was another really cool concept when you're having your meetings. Phones in the basket outside the door. That way you can't even answer. You don't even hear a ring. You don't hear vibrations. Equifinality. Many different ways to get to the same destination. We have fiduciary responsibility and duty of care. We can never lose sight of that, ever. As a CEO, executive director of an association, of your responsibilities within the places where you work. But then we have this leadership and all these fun titles, and some of these may be relevant to you. But the biggest one for me is the Grand Fromage. That's my wife, the big cheese. But we all work towards this thing that we want. We always have this thing we want to shoot for. Some people never want that responsibility, and that's okay. And that's something you need to honor as a leader too. Not everybody wants to be a master chef. Not everybody wants to be the pastry chef. I just want to be the person that comes in, does my job, and go home. And that's okay. We need them. But my challenge to you is this. Be curious in absolutely everything you do. When I say curious, this is a different kind of curious. So I showed you the Blue Angels for a reason. In that briefing, the cadence of voice, the hands, everybody dressed exactly the same. That's sort of the military standard, but if you have all of that in place, now the margin of errors are so small. But when you're meeting with your team or you walk by somebody, hey, Andy, so great to see you again. And I keep walking, not a big deal. Hey, Andy, how are you doing? And I keep walking. What the hell did I just do to Andy? I really didn't acknowledge him, dismissed him, and they call me a leader. To the point my staff on a staff engagement survey came back and said, Kurby doesn't care. Pardon? I'm the most humanistic leader you have ever met. I cry, I hug, I do all the things. That one punched me in the face. So I asked at a town hall immediately following, I put the quote up on the board. I don't care who in the room said it, but you really need to understand something. I need to myth bust this. Can someone or all of you please tell me, and I put a Slido up, anonymous Slido, tell me how I do this to you. Well, when you step out of the elevator, sorry, this thing keeps slipping off. When you step out of the elevator, you don't acknowledge me. When you're walking through the corridor, you're looking at your phone and you don't look up. I got curious in that meeting and I heard some real truths. The myth busting is I have 9 meetings in a day with a city councilor, an HR moment, a finance person, an external stakeholder, our executive chef, and I'm a movie player in my head. I have to play a movie before I enter a conversation. So I'm changing gears between meetings and reading about this counselor that I have to go and meet. And, oh yeah, I'm not allowed to talk about this, and this with this person because they don't like that. And blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, and their EA, she loves her Starbucks, bring a Starbucks. That's how she got into this bloody meeting, and yada, yada. So I'm playing this movie in my head, and they have no idea that I'm changing gears for the 5th time that day. They have no clue what we have to experience as senior leaders. But it matters. Now I'm not allowed to leave my office, or I don't take a step outside the building until I read my briefing. Then I go, instead of trying to do multiple tasks, because it's that important for my team to be seen, heard, and understood. But I've also given them a cue. If I have my phone in my hand, now is not the time to talk to me. If the phone is in my pocket, go ahead and interrupt me. And that's the commitment I made to my staff. So if you see me walk with my phone in the hand, I'm about to do something kind of important, please don't interrupt. But if the phone's in my pocket, fair game. Talk to me about anything. And then I intentionally, when I go get a coffee, I come back a different way every time. And I build it into my calendar so I intentionally run into people. So I changed my pattern in behavior to demonstrate a got your back way of work and understand. But the term be curious, so people can mirror our actions in 220 milliseconds. So if I'm quickly going down to talk to somebody down here, and sir, could you stand up for me? Yeah, I hate your guts. Why'd you shake my hand?
Because I hate you too.
You hate me too. He saw my hand coming up before he heard my words. Understand everything you do is seen, witnessed, and understood before you even open your mouth. You shine your shoes, they'll shine their shoes. I can make my entire male staff wear ties if I wear a tie for a week. Everybody wears ties. I wear running shoes to a meeting, everybody's in running shoes the next week. White ones, they'll match my shoes. It's ridiculous. But there's a neuroscience behind that. And the cool thing about that is there was this university, it's in Italy, Parma, discovered this neuro link to that. And it is probably the most powerful thing that you'll have because you can cause effect with your team by subtle movements. You come in, sit down, calm, cool, collected, and have that awkward pause. You've disrupted the brain pattern. They're waiting for the cadence of your voice. They're waiting for things to continue. And in the Blue Angels, just a little pull. They're going to mimic what's happening. Your body's reflexes are going to go. They've also identified in that same study that your heart rate is dictated by the voices you hear. If I'm talking fast and urgent and come on, this plate's got to go, and all of a sudden their heart rate will automatically go up instantly. If you slow it down, their heart rate slows down, and they will actually be more accurate. Having breakfast in a restaurant on Mother's Day, I intentionally wanted to sit at the bar. My wife looked at me like I was on crack, and I said, because there was all these tables. I said, no, I want to sit at the bar where they're cooking, because I knew I was coming here. And I wanted to see behind the scenes. And there was a shift change, break, whatever happened. But the chef that was calling out all the orders was neurotic. Like, oh my God, they were reading it off so fast. Everybody's like, got it, as they're going along. The next one comes along, and there was a lot of errors on that one. They kept calling back the wrong thing. Shift change comes in, or they go on a break, the next person comes in. Okay, up next is, and the cadence of voice changed, their accuracy picked up, and the speed actually picked up. They didn't once have to repeat themselves. There was a big aha moment there for me on a number of fronts. But even just watching on a short line for a breakfast place, what can actually happen with just tone of voice? And I didn't choreograph that. I was just like, this couldn't have happened any better. I wish I had my camera up recording it. But On top of being curious is noticing more. And that vocal entrapment that I was talking about, tone, when you're noticing more and you can actually ask questions with cadence, body language. Do you sit across from a desk when someone comes to you, or do you sit beside them? My favorite thing to do in my office, I have 3 chairs. I have the one beside me, the one across from the desk, one beside me, and I'm here, and I have a rounded corner desk. And I always stand away from the table. Someone comes to me and says, "Oh, have a seat." The person who sits across from me is going to be confrontational every time. The person that sits at the end of the table, collaboration galore. The person that says, "No, it's okay, I'll stand," oh, I'm about to have a meeting, because they're not going to be friendly with me. But noticing the behavior, noticing the cadence, how they're dressed, what's in their hand when they walk in, when they sit down, and my favorite thing to do is, how's it going, if it's a scheduled meeting? And when they say, "Oh, I'm having the hardest time," I turn the agenda over, I close my book. What's going on? Because they're struggling. There's nothing I'm going to say to them they're going to remember because they're struggling on that. But if you can take the time to notice more, but also be aware of what is happening with them, calmness equals calmness, chaotic equals chaotic. And you can manage your boards and your committees exactly the same way. You want to cause chaos in a room? Intentionally go into one meeting, absolutely going 400 miles a minute. Your conversations, flipping papers, okay, next, and then do the next one so calm, it almost puts them to sleep. And see what the productivity is of the 2 of those. I promise you, you will have a higher pickup on the second one. Personalization. We forget this sometimes, and I hope most of these pictures I asked AI to generate for me, so if you're in the audience, you got an issue with AI. Acknowledging the other person as a human being. And when we say that, processes for humans. You just demonstrated the fact that you couldn't say a first name in the one taste. Those are 2 rules I gave you, and some people chose not to listen to it. So that's the human factors and what we deal with. So every single time we're dealing with someone, always remember you're dealing with a human. What are they doing? If you want that person that has no emotions, go and hire the robot and have that cup of coffee delivered by the robot, where Barcelona, I think it was, in the airport, where they make a coffee and give it to you. I didn't want to drink it afterwards. Just like, really? And it tastes like garbage anyway. Hopefully the person that designed that isn't here. But if you remain calm as a human, and when you're talking to them, and you have pauses in your conversation and eye contact, did you know, Andy, that the color black is actually blue? People will start to believe everything you say. Do it with your kids. It's awesome. Mess with their head a little bit. Our human bodies are designed to process patterns and behaviors and regularity. So if we do anything to stimulate a change, they pause for a second, and then they decide, real or not. Does the dinosaur brain kick in? This being the dinosaur brain, now it's on alert, fight, flight, freeze. What am I doing? We're all programmed that way. So what are you doing today? Sometimes you need to do that to wake them up, and other times you don't do that. You just want to keep it nice, calm, cool, collected. Remembering we're human. Trust, I can tell you, is the most important thing that you could ever have. Quick to get, quick to burn, and quick to earn, not so quick to earn back. My house, I trust everyone till they give me a reason not to. Everybody has my unguarded trust until you give me a reason not to. And then, man, it's a long road back. And one of my directors is feeling it right now. They withheld something from me that was reputational risk on a capital project because he was worried about his job, because he was already over budget on this, and he just disclosed that we've created this beautiful bathroom, a $180,000 bathroom. I mean, it should start itself and have a Rolls-Royce brand on it for $180,000. But it's an accessible washroom with an adult change table and everything else. And I brought a wheelchair person into the venue. One of my closest advisors is a 500-pound wheelchair. And he's an accessibility expert. And he walked in, he goes, "So you want to hear my feedback?" The only thing they got right was the garbage can. Toilet's too high, toilet's missing the handrail. The mirror is not tipped. The counter, I can't. He wheeled up, he couldn't even reach the sink. He goes, great concepts, awesome change table, but where's the safety switch? If I fall in my wheelchair, what am I calling? Let me tell you how the next conversation went with that guy in the room. And I just pulled him in and said, do you have anything, what's going on with the accessible washroom? Everything's good? Yeah, everything's good. No issues, no complaints, no. What he didn't know is I already had a conversation with that person, and that person already told him all the problems. And this project's now going to be delayed 6 to 8 months as they redo things. 3 chances to tell me the truth. And he didn't. And I said, okay, just so you know, this is your one-time get-out-of-jail-free card, because in my house, once is an accident, twice is a habit, 3rd time you're gone. Very simple. Everybody knows the rules. It's psychologically safe. I'm good with you, you're good with me. You got 3 strikes. But really on the 3rd strike, you're walking. And my tone with him, while calm and firm, scared the living hell of him, to the point I now have to work on getting his confidence back over one conversation. If I could replay the tape, I may not have gone so hard. But boy, was I mad. And my CFO was sitting in the room, and I said, anything to add? She said, no, I think you covered it. So it was one of those moments where it's $180,000, guys. And it's a washroom. Oh, my God. So I burnt trust with him, and it was hard to get it back, but it's back. And it's sacred. And that weight of that trust is huge. And if you want to get going with your boards, understand, or your associations or your teams, understand this. There's a lot of science behind the word trust. We have Gallup saying an increase in engagement, 13% higher production and job satisfaction. You've got increase in risk-taking. They're willing to do it if they have trust. They will take the gamble and do something. That's coming out from the Journal of Applied Psychology. PwC, just a little firm, employees are less likely to leave their jobs. Was it 55%? 81% of consumers remain loyal to brands. The Endelman Trust Barometer, if you've ever not looked at that, you probably should. They study society about trust and all assets of business. It's actually a really cool thing to take a look at. And Deloitte, over 30% faster recovering in a crisis, and Lord knows we've done a few of those. But to bridge trust, we're only doing about 10% of it because it's performance-based. Where we lack in leadership is the bottom 90. And that's because that's the human aspect of what we're doing. Are we modeling the way? If you want your team to do certain things a certain way, are you modeling it every day faithfully? If you say, I want you to be a learning leader, are you one yourself? I want you to take 20 minutes for yourself. Do you take 20 minutes? I want you to go home at night. Don't work after hours. Are you emailing somebody at 10 o'clock at night? And they watch that. Culture, pressure, change, motivation, inspiration, self-awareness. That's all people seeing versus people doing. People doing is I want to hit the marks and I want to get measured, and those are all the things we can do. It's revenue and expense. It's the operation. It's the results. Yes, we did 1,800 covers tonight flawlessly. Good for you. Did you kill your team while you were doing it? And are they going to show up next time? Did you do a debrief afterwards that allows them to say, hey, the next time we're going to do this, let's consider this? Or, you know what? You guys, I'll give you some feedback. That was absolutely acidane what you did tonight. I cannot believe we served the blah, blah, blah. They go on and on and on. The minute you attack somebody, cortisol is released and they no longer will remember anything you're saying. All they're going to remember is that, boy, he was ticked off. A month from now, they will not remember what you said. But they will know you were upset. And you burnt trust. People seeing versus people doing. Put it on your screen at home. Put it wherever on your device, your computer in the office. Am I people seeing, am I people doing today? Really important. Drivers of trust, this is a fun game to do. Next time you're in a meeting, make a little triangle on your notepad with an A, an L, and an E. And depending who you're talking to, you will have a wobble on one of those points. And authenticity, logic, and empathy. Am I authentically engaging with you? Can I win your trust? What does authenticity sound like? I'm genuinely here. Where's my hands? Yeah, I'm so great to be here. I'm just so excited. Thank you for having me. Yes, you're a great human being. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I'm not being authentic with you. What I'll tell you is my daughters went through a very aggressive surgery. And I slept like the dead on the plane. And for the first time in my life, a flight attendant actually had to wake me up in London to say, sir, it's time to get off the plane. And there's only 3 people left on the plane. It's like, oh my God, I've never done this before. I was absolutely exhausted. But then a person was struggling at the airport and said, hey, I just got off the plane myself, and I helped them find where they were needing to go. Instantly, we had authenticity and engagement. Logic, you're good at your job. Your judgment is solid. We're good. I trust you because you know your crap. In fact, most of you in here, if you're wearing the white coat, chances are you have a high degree of trust with each other because you sort of already earned the jacket. The power of the white coat. You've all lived to that. You've earned it. I was going to wear one, but I was told that perhaps maybe I shouldn't because I didn't earn it. And it's like, thank you for that heads up. How to burn trust, come out with your garb on and say, great to be here. It's like, what did you do to get that jacket? Empathy. Empathy is the hardest one. I really appreciate where you're coming from. I understand. When someone walks into your office and says, I have to leave my husband tonight, I'm being abused and my children are at risk. Nothing else matters. What that empathy comment that comes out of your mouth next is what they're going to remember. And the fact they trust a male with that piece of information, she's being abused by a male, huge trust. Don't burn it. And you always have one. So the game that I have with you tonight, when you're at the reception, you're talking to somebody in your mind, where's my wobble? Am I authentic? Am I logic? Or empathy? You're weak on one point of the triangle at all times. There'll be one of those, it's never the same, but you will have a weakness somewhere. And also, this is a great tool to teach your team, guys. Not guys. Audience. He, she, they, thems, yes. Being self-aware. Really important. And this coin is there for a reason. That's a challenge coin from General Walton Tinchuk. And it's this coin. And the challenge coin is a long story. I can tell you about it later if you don't know what the challenge coin is. What's important, though, is this was his 4th day on the job as the Chief of Defense Staff, and he was at my facility, and I was assigned to him for the day. And I was to take him from point A to point B and meet all the soldiers, go to formal meetings. And we're walking into this building, unscheduled, ahead of schedule, and there's a gentleman in a wheelchair with his son. Double amputee, lost his legs in Afghanistan. And the Tinchuk looks at me like, did you just set me up? And I whispered the name. Corporal, whatever his last name was at the time, it was 16 years ago. Because I had the guest list. And he took his beret off, and he looked at me and says, we're going to be a few minutes. And the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Peter Pace, was with him at the time, was standing beside him, and he too took his headdress off. And the Tinchuk went up to the child and said, hi, I'm Walt. You know your dad's a hero. And don't you ever let somebody else tell you different. Peter Pace went on to say a few things to him and the soldier. They had a little private visit. Some things I'm not going to repeat. It's between them. But I had the honor of witnessing that and trying not to lose my mind and crying at the time because it was a very emotional few minutes. That night at dinner, hosting 500 sponsors, and Walt comes in, and his aide comes up to me and says, sir, we had to do the call. And I said, the call? He says, you're supposed to have a room ready at any time if we need it. Now would be the time. He needs to call somebody. The notification team is standing at their front door. He calls before they step in. Right. We are 3 minutes from 500 sponsors, millions of dollars represented in the room, and we're going to be late. And the guy I worked for just hates being late. Very well, off we go. We go out to the patio because I forgot to have the room ready. And he takes his beret off, and his aide hands him the phone, and he says, name again of who I'm talking to. He knew the soldier. Who am I talking to? Wife, mother, wife. Got it. And he steps off by himself in the corner, and I go to step towards, and the aide says, this is his conversation. We're never allowed to hear this. Okay? 20 minutes, and my guy I'm working for is losing his freaking mind. And he came out and says, you get them off the phone. It's just like he's telling someone they just lost their kid. How about you take a minute? Yeah, that was that time I took a big gulp and said, probably gonna lose my job tomorrow. Because he just kind of looked at me and turned around and went away. It's kind of, it wasn't a warm feeling. And he comes back, he hands the phone, puts his hat on, takes a big breath, turns to his aide and said, that is never gonna get easier. Smile on his face, walks in. 5 minutes later, he's on stage. Hi, I'm Walt from Winnipeg. Thank you so much for being here. The Canadian Forces, blah, 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 blah. You would never have known he just made that phone call. He had to be self-aware. Nobody in the room wants to hear what just happened. Or, oh, woe is this me, I'm going to give a horrible speech because I just gave some bad news. So again, senior leaders have to switch. And so these coins are given, these challenge coins are given in a handshake. You never know you get them. You never know they were given. And when it falls into your hand, you say, thank you, and you put it in your pocket. That is his way of saying thank you. I would love for you all to champion getting challenge coins made, because it is probably the coolest thing you could ever do to your staff, is put something like that in their hand and saying, man, you killed it today, well done. And they're not handed out like candy, you earn them. And everybody will all of a sudden know, oh, did you get a coin? I got a coin. So just an opportunity. But more importantly, pay attention to cognitive fatigue with your people. You're aware, but are you aware with them? Man, this person's off today. They are not, something's off. 90% of the time it has nothing to do with you, the workplace, the board meeting. It is something else, and it needs to be spoken to. The longest conversation someone ever has is with their self, and we all have a story that we don't read out loud. We all have a story that we don't read out loud. Remember that, because sometimes when you're talking to someone, they're going to reveal that story to you, and you need to be present for that. Stress, the other indicator, people double down when stress is present. They double down on bad behavior. Pay attention to that, be alert to that. It is the number one leading cause of you being, if you're curious and noticing more, you will pick up on that stress. And you'll be able to head it off. You could intervene and actually get ahead of it. Psychological safety, some people like to throw that word around. It's kind of like a catchphrase. It is so very important. And it was discovered by Amy Edmondson, who believed, she had a hypothesis, she's a Harvard professor, had a hypothesis that the emergency teams and the OR folks in a hospital, the highest performing teams had the least amount of errors. That was her hypothesis. She did the study and it's like, that can't be right. So she hired another PhD to come in and do the study and didn't tell that person what she got for a result to see if she could validate the concern, and it was validated. The highest performing teams had the most amount of errors because they were reporting them. The other guys weren't. The other team had the most amount of after-care incidents, infection. Sometimes they even found an instrument in the body that got left behind. The other team was allowed to speak up, call out, and fix things and identify it. I can speak up without fear of retribution was basically the rule of psychological safety. It is not trust. Trust is between two people. Psychological safety is a group order, and you can only affect that one step above, one step below, or sideways. That is all you can do. I can influence the next level, but I cannot go 3 layers down. Always know that. And you can't stand there, we are a psychologically safe organization and you shall like it and we're going to speak up and tell the truth. They will never speak up. It is earned as a team, as a collective. My executive team, fully transparent. The next layer down, fully transparent. Managers, yeah, we're about 50%. That's been 5 years of work. We're getting there. It's not perfect. So this is what it is. Creates care and reduces harm to others, celebrates failing fast. Oh God, I love that. Have you ever done something in the restaurant where, or you're doing this new dish and it fails galactically and you say, awesome, that so didn't work? Or, great, you did it for 5 people, can we do it for 1,800? That's one of the things my chef is famous for. He says, oh, look at this. It's like, great, can you do it for 1,800 people? No. It's like, okay, then don't tease me like that. Promotes active listening, because now you're going to listen because everybody's taking a step up when we're reporting on how we can do things better. It's local and creates fearless communication through candor and transparent communication. It is not kittens and cinnamon buns. Psychological safety is hard conversations as well. Clear as kind. You clearly missed the ball today. But the next time we're doing this, here's what we can do to improve that. Promotes it. It's not a substitute for trust. Trust is between two people. But if you burn it, it's harder to have psychological safety, but trust is between two people. An accountability reducer. And it's not about introvert or extroverts. Has nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing. Creative tension. Probably the coolest tool ever. And you need to call it out when you see it. And I'm trying to get my elastic that slipped under my watch. We'll just get rid of the watch. Creative tension. Current reality versus the future state. If it's not being stretched, nothing's developing. But when it's being stretched, now we have learning. That little ping in the middle when you can pull the elastic and it doesn't break, but it can do this. Now you're learning. You layer on elastics, you have 5 team members that have creative tension, that elastic will not break. This one I could break. Pull it really hard, it'll snap. Then we have burnout, staff quitting, you don't have retention. Embrace that creative tension, and when there's no tension, like no one's challenging each other, that's the problem, because then you're really not growing. This is demonstrating what happens when there's layers, but it does create the capacity for patience at a new level, and you will persevere like you have never persevered before through any challenge if you can have healthy creative tension. Always remember the elastic. We talked about feed forward and feedback briefly, the Marshall Goldsmith stuff, and if you ever want to visit more on that, just Google feed forward. Marshall Goldsmith will show up, and there's a document for you and team to read. What is the difference? The difference when you're giving feed forward is the person you're giving feed forward to's job is to say thank you. That's it. Not, but that won't work, but and start to be defensive. Nope, their only job is to say thank you. They're not here to debate it. I just gave you a recommendation for the next time you move forward, and what I love about it is forward. You can't change what just happened. You can go back and you can say, man, oh man, that dessert that you served today was garbage. I can't believe you even let that leave the kitchen, whatever it may be. Or, you know, that board meeting sucked ass. It is the worst thing that could have ever happened to our associations to have that board meeting. What's that going to change? Hey, chair, could I suggest the next board meeting maybe we consider whatever it may be, different outcome. And people are not going to be, people don't get defensive when you give feed forward. Feedback, that brain, that dinosaur brain flips. What do you mean I did something wrong? As opposed to feed forward, it drops your guard by 20%. See that cat-like reflexes? Super chickens. Wicked story. And I hope you stop and look at this when you get home. William Muir was a social psychologist, and he had this hypothesis that the highest performing chickens would create the most amount of eggs. So he ran an experiment over a few years. First, had to identify the chickens that were the super chickens. So everybody's laying eggs, and he's counting. Super easy to measure. Okay, so this group of chickens and that group of chickens, they're the highest performers. So let's put those together. And ran the experiment again. Then he comes back the next day, and all the chickens are dead, but one. They all killed each other. So the rule with super chickens is to have diverse chickens. Do you have, everybody in your kitchen's a high performer? You gotta be very careful with that. Remember I talked about those people that didn't want their job, I want to do my job and go at home? If you have a full team of super high performers, they will absolutely kill each other. Look in your own boardrooms. You've all achieved something. You're all master chefs sitting at a table. You've all achieved that standard. You all believe you're the expert in the room. But what happens when there's a personality conflict? You're all type A personalities, typically. You didn't get to where you are by being passive, that's for sure. So I would encourage you, think about your diverse chickens. What I love to do in our organization is I say, I want to see, remove faces. And names. I want to see degrees, levels of education, what they've achieved, and what was the last development they did. Take names and faces away. Why does this one team have all the education? Why did they put everything in that one space? Leadership, crappy leadership that didn't actually spread the wealth. So do that in your own organization. List the skills, take names and faces off, and just put body 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is their education? And when was the last time they actually went for some professional development? You'll be surprised what you see. unless you have somebody monitoring that for you, you will be surprised. Decisions, we're going to be quick about this. So I use this because generally I like to communicate this to the younger crowd, and I'm hoping there's some F1 fans in here. But there's 3 types of things that are going on in these pictures. The car's on the track, then you got the tech team under the ramp, and of course I'm very technical in this description because I'm the least mechanically sound person in the world. 23 people to do a pit stop. They all have one job to do, each. And they train and train and train and train. And that pit stop is, as you know, just under sub 4 seconds, whatever it may be at the time. 1.3, 2.3. And then you've got, I'm actually a Red Bull fan, so the red color was really cool to put on the screen. The Red Bull didn't show up that well. He's making decisions. So you got the technical guys who are data. All the car is firing in thousands and thousands of terabytes of data as that thing's going around the lap. In fact, it was, who's the orange guys? Lando Norris. McLaren, thank you. I should probably know that, they're in British. They'll know within the 8 laps of the race where they're going to finish because of the amount of information the car is receiving. So they're data. The ones below are instinctively running the gun because it's muscle memory. They know what works, what doesn't work until the gun jams, and we all know what happens then. And then you've got your principal who is trying to make decisions. Decisions. We make decisions 3 ways. Deductive reasoning, it's all the data. I'll get into those. The inductive reasoning is what are the other data points that I'm pulling in to help make these decisions? And then there's your intuition, which how many people always say, my gut's always right, it's never failed me, right? Deductive is define problems. You have the parameters, it's measure. The key questions, are we asking the right questions? When is good enough good enough? I think that's probably the hardest thing we have to look at. When you look at the data, you say, yeah, that's good enough. No, we need to do more, but when is good enough good enough? And then, if we made the call, what's the implications? If we made the wrong call, what's the implications? If we don't do this, or what if we're wrong? So it's clear, familiar, efficient, consistent. However, it's inflexible, oversimplified, lacks creativity, and assumption dependent. And you will make mistakes if you're just making decisions on data only. I love it when people say, I only make decisions with data, only data. So what if your data source is wrong? How are you validating that work? Inductive reasoning starts with observation, what's being revealed, finds patterns that emerge from evidence. What I love about this is you have this piece of data, okay, who's going to validate this? My favorite thing is maintenance is behind on their expenses. Outstanding. I'm going for a walk. Why is that wall not painted? Why is the vacuum cleaner busted? Whenever time I find a broken vacuum, I beat it up so it can never be used again because I refuse to let housekeepers ever clean with something less than perfect because they have the hardest job on earth. If you have housekeepers working with duct tape on a vacuum, break it, replace it, they have the hardest job on earth. Some of you will say, well, the kitchen has the hardest job on earth. But housekeeping cleans up the vomit. So when I'm doing that walkabout, I'm going to get to validate why are we so great on expenses? Because you're not spending on the building. Why are we behind on expenses in the kitchen? Well, that induction oven has exceeded lifespan now for 7 years. And yeah, we continue to function with it just fine. It's exactly what my executive chef told me last year, and I replaced his entire kitchen. Because we were starting to get food complaints. It's like, what's going on here? Why are we not doing this? Why are we not doing that? And so went in and completely replaced every element of the kitchen, bolted everything to the floor. I said, now you should have perfect scores, right? Because now it's no longer equipment issues, it's a you issue, or your staff's issue. And it worked. All of a sudden, they're quicker, they're faster, and all sorts of things. But on the complaint line, the data that was coming in as you're sliding, why? Go for a walk. Pattern recognition, critical thinking, flexible, adaptable, grounded, and pragmatic. What I love about it is you have other places to come in. Sometimes it's going to an outside source, secret shop, have your friend come in and no one know they're your friend and do the experience. I love it when my board members come in and they attend a function in my building. I get the greatest reviews afterwards, so I ask for it, and there's times it's like, why did I ask for that? But they're fantastic. Again, it's that nice way of getting a pulse. But what I love about the inductive is it's on the individual. It is on me to evaluate and pull in my data sources. Intuition is the most dangerous. And sometimes I always say, if your gut says this, then work backwards to data. And if those two other points identify that your gut feeling's right, then you're good to go. But if you're making a decision just on instinct, yeah, they got that, they're a good staff member, yeah, you're toast. There's no other data points pushing into that. And intuition is speed. You all have fantastic intuition. You've all worked with intuition. And I bet you half of you could walk into that competition next door that some people are itching to get to. I'm standing between you and that competition. Just by walking around, you know who's going to win. Because your experience and your intuition says, I have a feeling this person's going to win. Somebody in this room actually said that to me this morning. Oh yeah, I won't say the name, or who they said was going to win. We said, yeah, it'll be this or that. Why? It's just experience. That was their response. You have bias. Crazy bias that you have no idea. You all have this favorite employee who you could trust with your life, your wife, and your dog. They're amazing. But what happens when they start screwing up and you don't see it because that can't be that person? When I was told we had a problem with that bathroom, yeah, not him. He doesn't make those kind of mistakes. So I want to leave you with this thought. We're amazing leaders, and I heard President Andy graciously talking to the next generation. We're great leaders, and at one time we were a follower. We were all followers. And I had great leaders, and I had crap leaders. I had crazy lived experiences that I never want to ever live again, and there were those that, oh, give me more. But along the way, there was mentors that came along. Mentors that I believe in, and to this day, over 25 years, I have a friend that started as a major in the military. He's now a retired general, and he's my closest advisor. He's the most decorated general in Canada, and I had the privilege of calling him my friend, and he is my sounding board, and man, does he get real with me when I'm trying to make a decision. And he'll remind me, stop being so human, you need to make an actual executive decision here. You've contemplated everything, but this is going to be your hard call. So leave here with this in mind. Everything we just visited, and I know you guys are struggling because jet lag's kicking in on the last speaker of the day. There had to be 25, 30 junior chefs here. Before you leave this week, you all owe one of them or more a visit. You go to them. They don't come to you. That is the problem in our industry right now. It doesn't matter where you work. The young one has to come to you. You very rarely go to them. They've taken the time to be here. Somebody said it's important for them to be here. You can mold them. Remember the handshake. I don't like you. Remember the got your back way of work, patterns and behaviors. You're going to mold the way for them in the future because someone went to them. They didn't have to go to them. You went to them. They didn't have to seek you out. Do that for me. Do it for your associations. And when you get back, all of you should challenge yourself, who are you mentoring? I have a 26-year-old in Paris, just outside of Paris, that I'm mentoring to be a future CEO for a convention center. She said that's what she wants, and she signed into a program, and I got selected to be her mentor. How cool is that? And let me tell you, she has taught me some things at 26. Hey, old man, can we update your PowerPoint for you? So we can have a lot of fun, and you will learn something. Remember, learning leaders learn. I'm going to leave you with this thought.
Sometimes in life we search for opportunities. Opportunities of life change. Moments of leadership aren't always met with a fanfare, a spectacle, or pageantry. They're selfless and noble. They're inherent, instinctive. Authority doesn't always equate to leadership. A leader knows that teamwork is always better than going at it alone. And being reliable can carry more weight than any position or power. A leader goes the extra mile when you're tired and when it doesn't make sense to. But integrity is about doing the right thing when no one is looking. It's not about having all the answers, but taking what's in your cup and pouring it into someone else's that is less full. People follow those who are selfless and open-handed. A leader sees the potential in someone and blows wind into their sails. You go throughout your day hoping to unlock the potential in someone, hoping that something clicks. And sometimes the day ends wondering if any significant difference has been made, if any ground has been covered, if there is any tangible evidence of your investment, if it was just lost on those you've led, yielding no return. There will be times when you feel like giving up on those whom you've led, when you think that all that effort, all the guidance and direction is all for naught. Please, don't give up on us. Even though we may not be asking for it, we are desperate for you to lead us. Because we are watching. We are paying attention. We're begging for you to keep going. You help us realize that leadership is something worth fighting for, worth running after. What we get is rich, and it's greater than any monetary reward. It's been said leadership doesn't happen in a day. It happens daily. And your influence on us will have ripples felt for days to come.
For those of you who are avid readers, this is my learning library, an excerpt from that. If you want to learn more, want to pass books on to your team, this is the recommended collection. My favorite is the top line. Mumuk Sequinum. Thank you very much. Okay. My name is Mumuk Sequinum. I'm known to the Blackfoot Confederacy as the Blue Heron. When you have trust, you can be invited into so many different communities. And my highest trust has been with the Blackfoot community in Canada, which is the Indigenous community to where I live. They do not hand out names very well. That is why I'm wearing this today. They go where I go, and I go with them. So I want to thank you very much for your time. Please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I'd love to stay in contact. But please, please, please continue to mentor others. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Excellent finish for the day.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Really good.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. A little something from us.
Oh, thank you. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.